It's Wednesday, December 5th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we review Samurai Crusader and The Bug Boy. Ah, Bug Boy. Let's do this.
You might have noticed yesterday that it wasn't one of our normal episodes.
Well, it counted as a normal episode. It wasn't a special, but it was by no means recorded last night, as it usually is.
No, and a lot of people have been asking about when it would come, and I guess that was the good opportunity because while Scott was home, I assume engaging in some sort of erstwhile pursuit, though actually I know better. He was playing a game. A very, let's say, interesting game. A game that I'm avoiding for reasons that either make the game sound very good or very bad to me.
It's like the best, worst game ever, so I might stop playing, though, at least for a while.
I've been, pointedly avoiding this game. Not like World of Warcraft, where I want to play it just to tell you all how much I hate it, but I really don't want to play this game because I worry about what will happen.
Yeah, something epic, as in the olden days.
Well, I think the worst
then
thing
again,
is...
I wish I had this game back in the olden days. Like in high school, this would have been the best thing ever.
So much for Civ 2.
Yeah.
But where I was, I'm not going to dwell on this because I think I could do someday when Scott's out of town, I'll tell a little story about this. But I was sipping Bellinis in the Rainbow Room in New York City. And I have to say, the Rainbow Room is quite... I imagine I just had this fast forward future to me 10 years from now, and we'll have I don't know, the Geeknights after party in the Rainbow Room after some con.
The Rainbow Room's not the nicest. I mean, it's not a disgusting room or anything, but it's not, there's nicer rooms. You know?
Not many. I mean, have you ever been up there?
Yeah, it's this big circular room, and it's got the chandelier in the middle, and then there's you can actually, if anyone wants to go to the Rainbow Room, they have Fridays and Saturdays. You can just pay to go and have dinner and dancing up there.
Well, remember, there's the Rainbow Room, and then there's the Rainbow Bar and Grill on the 65th floor.
Uh-huh.
It's not the same thing.
All right.
But yeah, I remember it was Emily and I walk in, and we were just handed Bellinis, which is a champagne cocktail.
All right.
If you're the kind of person who's like, well, I've got champagne, but that's just not enough. I gotta mix this with something.
Maybe because the champagne is actually ass and they need to cover it up, but you can still say you're drinking champagne, so you still feel really awesome, like you're high class.
Well, no, because my test of any sort of bar or anything like that is, one, I go up to the bartender who had probably the third or fourth most awesome mustache I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
It was magnificent, and it was curled up and waxed.
Oh, mans.
And I said, make me a Manhattan. And he reached for all the proper things in the proper amounts and used a very good whiskey.
Yeah, that's what you get at a fancy place.
As opposed to, say, Ubercon, where I got basically a tumbler full of whiskey.
That's a hotel. I mean, that's an average, usual hotel, not some fancy place.
But yeah, the only thing I really want to say is it was really kind of odd and wonderful to see the Empire State Building from a similarly tall build. To see it...
you mean about a half as tall building.
As in, to see the Empire State Building from a very tall building, as opposed to seeing other not as tall buildings from the Empire State Building.
Yeah, it's sort of... But the thing is, once you've been on the Empire State Building, it's well, I guess there are taller buildings in the world, but I guess not in the city anymore.
Well, I went to the CN Tower. Way back.
How tall is that?
It's one of the tallest. It was the tallest building in the world until recently.
I'll look it up.
But you know what the view from the top was? Nothing. There were a lot of clouds under us, and I couldn't see a goddamn thing.
Yeah, that's about how the weather is lately.
Lately, this was 10 years ago.
The CN Tower looks like a crappy Space Needle.
All right. Way to malign Canada.
Take that, Canada. Your CN Tower is a crappy Space Needle.
I like the CN Tower.
It doesn't look too good to me.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
I think I've seen it from the ground before, but I don't think I've ever been in it.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Right, but anyway, it is Wednesday. I figure we should talk about anime a little bit.
You mean mostly?
Well, we haven't done a show on any anime in a while, since Scott won't watch Escaflowne again.
I'm not refusing. It's just when am I gonna watch this?
I don't know. Maybe you weren't playing Dwarf Fortress every day.
I only played it for 3 days so far.
Yes, and you've already forewent things like sleep.
No, I haven't.
Haven't you?
No, I haven't.
Uh-huh.
I went to sleep at my usual time.
No, but what about on the train? You could have slept, you could have read something, but no, you were playing Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah, I did. I have foregone reading comics. This is actually the first time where new comics have showed up at the door, and there is still old comics that were not read.
Meanwhile,
I think that's also because this is one of those short months where comics come, and then 3 weeks later comics come. Because the month before that, there was like extra weeks without comics. It sort of goes like that.
Now, it must be Bizarro World because I'm reading comics at almost the rate Scott used to read them.
And I'm playing PC games, and I have Wii games that are unplayed.
Yeah, what's going on?
I don't know.
But, yeah, this weekend, as in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it is December, by the way, so December 7th, 8th, and 9th, we are going to be guests at the New York Anime Festival in the Jacob Javits Center in New York City, New York.
This is actually my news because I couldn't find any news. And we need to talk about this, but we don't want to do a whole episode about it.
Yeah, well, we'll do a whole episode about it, I imagine, after it happens.
Yeah, probably next Wednesday.
Yeah, great.
But anyway, at the convention, we're doing, 4 events?
Yeah, just 4, and we'll have a complimentary...
Just 4 events, that's all, 4.
Well, after, I think, the epicness of
Kineticon. 7 event Kineticon?
Yeah, and we're doing a similar amount at Katsucon. And the thing is, Kineticon was all like panels. Katsucon, everything we're doing is like a main event, so... yeah, we'll have more about that. Katsucon, suffice to say, is probably going to be the greatest live thing we have ever done.
All right.
But until then, I think the New York Anime Festival is going to be one of the greatest things live we've ever done.
Maybe. All right. Do you have a little schedule for us? I think Friday at 3, as soon as I think the con opens to the public at 2, and at 3, the first panel is, at least in one of the rooms, is us doing the Gekiga panel without the prawn.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much the same panel we did at Otakon, only without Gerald.
More like the one we did at Kineticon. More educational, less rape-tastic.
Yes, I believe rape-tacular is the word I was using.
All right.
And that's going to be fun. Scott made a little PowerPoint. Well, not really a PowerPoint, but
I made a Google presentation.
And we might act out a scene from one of our favorite Gekiga.
I'm pretty sure we're going to, as we did before.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what scene.
Yeah, that's true. Not a rape-tastic scene.
Actually, that's it for Friday, which is probably good because...
We're going to spend a lot of time getting stuff set up, talking to people, hanging out.
Kind of out of the blue, it turns out that 3 very long-standing and most excellent friends are going to kind of randomly be at the con.
Alrighty.
So we're going to get to see Ananth, and we're going to get to see Ido. We're going to get to see C Squared, at least half of C Squared.
And we got Dave and Joel going to be there?
Yep, Dave and Joel of Fast Karate for the Gentlemen are actually, it's kind of weird, we're guests of the con, and Dave and Joel are guests of us, of the con. So theoretically, I guess they're at our beck and call since we control their badges, but I don't think we're going to make them do anything.
I think we'll make them maybe sit at our table when we're not sitting at it.
Yep, but Emily will also be at the table, and she'll have the t-shirt designs that are probably going to be finalized somewhat in the near future. Mm-hmm. So if anyone really, really wants to see the, upcoming swag of Geeknights and maybe talk to the artist herself and get some feedback in before we actually send them to print, now's your chance.
Alrighty.
But, yeah, that's it. We'll be hanging out. Just come to our Artist Alley table. You can't miss us.
I mean, the con goes to, 9:45 on Friday, I think. And I think, after, 6:45, there are no events except for cosplay stuff.
So we'll just be wandering, interviewing, hanging out.
Yep.
But, yeah,
we have
Saturday,
an Artist Alley table, by the way.
Yes. You can miss it. But, Saturday, from 3 to 4... we will have in Anime Fandom Panel Room 1A07 the anime match game, which was made known at Katsucon last year and made famous at Kineticon last year.
Yeah, and immediately following that, in the same exact room, is the Geeknights Live podcast, which is not something we usually do, but the con organizing guy requested we record an episode of the show at the con as an event.
And also, what I like about this is usually cons always make us do a panel about podcasting and what podcasting is and talk about podcasting, but this isn't that. This is just going to be us doing a show. It will happen to be live.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about, though.
I think it's going to be pretty fun. I mean, how rarely do we have a live studio audience that's more than just Emily and Alex?
Yeah, that's true, but I would much rather do, a panel where I'm educating the audience about something specific, like the Gekiga panel. But, oh well, take what you can get.
And also on Sunday from noon to 1, we'll be doing the video game match game. Which
Oh,
is
snap.
same as the anime match game, only the answers will all be, I don't know, Mario.
Well, I mean, usually we do a match game for 2 hours, so instead of that, we're doing 2 one-hour match games. I guess that's just as good.
Yep. And for the video game match game, I think most of the celebrity panelists are going to be people such as Dave Riley, Joel White.
Yeah, because, I mean, this is an anime convention, first and foremost. I mean, it has other stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, they're providing a bunch of celebrities for the anime match game, and they said, well, we can get you people for the video game match game, but I don't know how video game they'll be.
Yeah, we need them to be video game, or else it doesn't work.
Though I will say, I cannot confirm 100% because she hasn't finalized it, but she was very interested. At least one of the celebrities we're going to have for the anime match game is none other than Lisa Ortiz, the voice of Lena Inverse.
Uh-huh.
She is one of those, like... It's funny, if I went back to myself when I was in high school and watching anime and said, dude, you're going to be running an event as a guest at a con where the voice actress of Lena, because, I watched dubs back then, is going to be on your game show. I wouldn't have believed myself, but here we go. I'm going to try to interview her, aside from having her on the thing.
All right, whatever.
we got a
I don't
bunch
know,
of-
voice actors, I mean, like, English voice actors really don't excite me. Like, when I go to a con...
Scott, nothing excites you. You're just down and gloom.
Things do excite
the
me.
Rainbow Room ain't so great. Oh,
It isn't.
Dub actors ain't so great. Cons ain't so great. I don't like doing my panels.
I guess it's like, I don't look at them the way I look at some other famous people where they're like, oh my god, amazing, but I look at them like, hey, they're just normal, cool people hanging out. What's up?
Well, I very specifically said my high school self back when it was, I guess anime was a bigger deal to me.
Yeah, my high school self, I wasn't, see, that's the thing, is until, like, relatively very recently, I didn't even think about the people who made anything I liked, and I didn't care about them at all. Like, I didn't know directors or actors or authors or anything.
Oh yeah, we can't forget, it appears that Daryl Surratt is going to be at the New York Anime Festival.
I think he has a press pass, doesn't he?
Well, the thing is, if you're a guest of the con, there's a facility where the press can request interviews if you consent. And Daryl Surratt, being cheeky, requested an interview with us.
Well, he said he was going to do it, and he did, and it worked.
So I got an email from the con. They're like, yeah, this news outlet called Anime World Order wants to have an interview with you. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I think it was cool to do this just to see how the system worked. Because if you're press at some convention, and you want to get some time special with one of the guests or something.
Well, I think the real answer there is that Daryl Surratt wants some special time with you.
With me? I think he wants it with both of us.
See, the thing is, I'm not worried about, I don't know, clown pistols because he's flying here. And the TSA
I'm
is
trusting the TSA to take his clown pistols away. We'll see how that... Come on, TSA, don't let me down.
Those are famous last words.
Yeah, I know, right?
But, yeah.
Well, of course, we aren't taking any airplanes. We could easily get some clown pistols there.
Clown pistols. I'm thinking Roman candles.
It's all you. It's all you.
But, yeah, other than that, we're going to be interviewing people and hanging out, and I think it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah. I've heard some interesting, I've gathered lots of information about this con over a while, and I'm not sure what to make of it all. And, the con, in all honesty, this is not guaranteed to be some amazing convention. But again, it is not guaranteed to be some epic fail terrible convention either.
It's a new thing. They're trying something.
It's very interesting if you look at the history of geek conventions in New York City and what happened with the Big Apple Anime Festival, and you look at what happened with these people in the New York Comic Con, but then you look at the people they've got running this con,
and you look at, compare the first New York Comic Con, where basically it was epic failure.
It was right. See, you look at all these factors, and it's like you got this mountain of positive factors, a mountain of negative factors, and a mountain of unknown factors.
See, I think the positive outweighs. The rationale is the epic failure of the New York Comic Con 2 years ago
is something no one could possibly be dumb enough to repeat.
Well, no, because when they ran the New York Comic Con the following year, while it's not my kind of con, just because I'm not the kind of person who enjoys a Comic Con, they ran that thing pretty freaking amazingly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people showed up, and it went really, really well.
Yep. Well, I think that no matter what happens at this con, everything we do, as long as it happens and doesn't get canceled or moved or anything, will be awesome, because I guarantee that. And second of all, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Because, I'm very curious as to see how it's going to go down. And I think it'll actually be exciting, where usually I go to an anime con and it's only the expected, typical thing from an anime con. What I expect to see is what I see. But I think at this con, I'm going to see some things that I haven't seen.
Well, honestly, more and more, I think, and that's why we're trying to do something a little different at Katsucon, just in terms of all anime cons kind of, with the exception of Florida, I guess, are all the same. Like, they all have their own character. Like, every con has its own things. Like, Anime Central always had the awesome opening ceremonies and the best con suite in the history of cons. But, like, Otakon was just awesome and gigantic. And Katsucon has, like, people our age hanging out in the bar. And just a very different vibe. And, like, Animazement's very, like, you get to hang out with the super big name Japanese voice actors and directors.
As long as you're cool.
Because they're just there walking around, and it's very chill and awesome. But, like, every con's different in that regard. But in terms of programming, they're all identical. They got the cosplay, and they got this, and they got that, and a bunch of fan panels.
They're mostly identical.
In terms of, you never see something unexpected at an anime con.
Not at least not if you've been to one before.
Yeah.
If you've never been to one before, I don't know if this is a good one to go to.
Oh, God. I remember our first Otakon?
I guess if this is the only one you can go to, and you've never been to one before, I guess it couldn't hurt, but don't, like, take what happens here as an impression of what all anime cons are because who knows?
I think that anime cons need to, I don't know,
diversify, yes.
branch out a little bit. And like Katsucon and Otakon, each one of them should have something that really makes them stand out. Like
I think so too, but I'm worried that someone will come to this and who knows what it'll be like, it could be, who knows, it's all over the map, and they'll take that experience, positive or negative, and sort of apply that to, and assume other anime cons are the same way. And I know for one thing, good or bad, this con will be different from all others.
See, that's not a concern at all, because think about how many people have never even heard of Otakon. Like, the only reason Otakon doesn't have problems with attendance is just because they kind of don't advertise.
Yeah, these people are out to make a profit. That's the other thing. So the people running this con, Otakon is by fans for fans.
Which has its pros and cons.
Yeah, and this
Get
con...
it? Pros and cons?
Oh, yeah, and this convention is by a company, Reed Exhibitions. With that company, all they do is run conventions of various kinds in order to make money. And the industry is all over this con, the anime industry, the manga industry, and whatever.
But at the same time,
the U.S. manga.
But at the same
industry.
time, Peter, who we were working with, who kind of got us on board with this whole shindig, very much was doing his research about how fan anime cons are run, and there's a very good possibility that this con is basically going to have the weight of professionals who care about, like, they have a vested interest in the con going well, coupled with actually doing things that they think the fans will like, as opposed to, I don't know, Anime Expo, which I've never really heard a lot of good things about.
No. All I can say is it's going to be really interesting, and I'm incredibly curious and actually sort of, like, excited to go to this con and see what goes down, whereas other cons, it's sort of like, oh, going to a con. This one's like, oh, man, so what's going to go down? Let's see.
So, I have some actual anime news here. And
holy crap, really?
Now, the moral, I'm going to let you all listen to this story. I'm going to read somewhat verbatim. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit the news. It's not that long. And then I'm going to impart upon you what I think the moral.
Oh, I know this news. I saw it in Your Delicious.
Of this whole situation is.
I saw this news in Your Delicious.
Did you read it?
Yes, go on.
Good God.
Go on.
Okay. Now, this is, I guess, the closest thing to a press release that this got. So
yeah, and who knows how true this is? It's a post in a forum, right?
I'm gonna get to that.
All right.
Now this is posted by Kaito Ace, who has 899,999,991,000,000,000.0000,000 points in this forum.
This is why our forum doesn't have points.
And he has made 12,417 posts. So
why are you even saying that?
Because while he and maybe people of his ilk might think one thing, like they might glean one type of information, one opinion about him based on that number, I hope all of you are gleaning the opinion that I have gleaned from that number.
I hope so too.
So begin quote. And the basis of this is, so what happened to animewallpapers.com?
Animewallpapers.com, that site's been around forever.
It's ancient.
Super ancient.
Okay, this has been a long time coming, but I wanted to hold off and tell the full story until things were a bit underway. Now, please bear with me, as this is going to be somewhat long, but I'd rather give more detail than less. I'm not gonna point out any more typos or spelling errors or crap.
There are too many of them.
God. Less in a manner such as this. As some of you may know, AnimeWallpapers.com was started by Philip Mack, PMac, way back in the year 2000.
It was, and that was the site to go to for anime wallpapers. I mean, he didn't have a lot of wallpapers, and he sort of posted them manually, and people submitted them, but he had them there organized by show, and he had some quality ones. There weren't any really ugly ones there.
Since that time, it has grown to be the largest anime wallpapers site.
It's pretty much the only site that I've found that consists solely of anime wallpapers, that's well organized, easy to use, and generally high quality.
Unfortunately, on February 13th, 2007, PMac passed away.
How?
It was very sudden.
Uh-huh.
See, now, this is actually a whole aside. I think we should do a Monday show on... We're at a point in the world where a lot of people create a lot of content and do a lot of businessy things without companies or lawyers or businessy stuff. Mm-hmm. And, like, when we die, we're going to die someday. Well, at least Scott's going to die.
Yeah.
I might be able to put my brain
right
in the
after
computer.
him dies.
Are we going to be like Thomas Jefferson and Adams when Adams dies? He's like, damn it, Jefferson still lives. But Jefferson had died like 5 minutes before. Anyway. So, when people like us die, what happens to Geeknights? No one has the passwords but me and Scott. No one has the accounts. No one has any right to
A lot of
it.
the things, no one has the passwords but me.
Yeah, and vice versa. There's some things I have control over, like all the archives.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's an interesting question, and a lot of those issues kind of come up in this continuing press release to allow me to continue. I don't think I'll interrupt anymore until the end, because otherwise I'll never get through this. Mm-hmm. It was all very sudden, and the multitude of sites that he was running went down as the server payments stopped. A server admin, Hong Lee, who was helping him manage the systems, was able to back up most of his content and set the sites up on a new server. When PMac's mother contacted Hong Lee about her son's estate, he decided that this was a prime opportunity, and using his access to fake emails from PMac to GoDaddy, and moved most of the domain names and sites that PMac was running over to Enam. Mm-hmm. I guess these are all forum names.
Yeah.
Hong Lee has posted in this forum as Foobar Widget, pretending he had a legitimate claim to the sites. Also, unfortunately, during that time, PMac and I were not on speaking terms. I thought he was... Anyway. Due to the anime lyrics situation. I wonder what the anime lyrics situation was.
People with their drama.
Well,
this is why we succeed and other people fail with their drama.
But I do want to point out, does anyone else remember Sailor Bacon, that was a creepy dude.
It sounds familiar.
Sailor Bacon was a creepy dude, but he ran a website that was really the only place to get lyrics to anime songs back in the day.
I remember that.
Yeah. Sailor Bacon, as far as I could tell, was a cross-dressing, like, Sailor Moon guy, something. I saw pictures of him.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, anyway. To continue, I don't know if this involved Sailor Bacon or not. So my first knowledge of any of this came with the post from Hong Lee. Being the suspicious kind, I reached out to a few business partners of PMac's, whom I knew from our past dealings, and was eventually able to piece together what had happened. Despite our differences of opinion here, he was a friend of mine, and it's also simply not right for his mother to have to be fighting a legal battle over the work her son spent most of his life on. Princess Minako and I felt that we had to reach out to his mother and offer any kind of support we could, try to correct the situation. Both GoDaddy and Enam weren't interested in helping as the domains were moved from one registrar to another. Enam was hiding his identity behind their Whois protection service. Each registrar simply pointed us back and forth, yada yada yada, he couldn't get the domains. We spent most of the summer dealing with the registrars. After being contacted by our lawyer, Hong Lee decided to register GetAnimeWallpapers.com and redirect all the AnimeWallpapers.com traffic there, thus pretty much ruining the status of the domain.
If he had the domain, why didn't he just move the domain, like just point the domain directly at the server? Why do you have to CNAME? And I don't get it.
I can think of a few ways for SEO purposes, but anyway. In the end, we felt we had at least enough ground to file a motion with ICANN and try to recover the domain name. After about a month, ICANN ruled in our favor, blah, 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 they got the domain back. After going through this and finally recovering the names, Kitty, PMAC's mother, was very kind in offering the domains to me with a very fair offer in the hopes that we can continue to build the site the way that her son would have wanted it, as opposed to going with an ad agency which could have paid her a larger sum but would likely have been unable to maintain the site correctly. As Hongli was also running AnimeLyrics.tv, I just wonder if one of these people is Sailor Bacon or even remember what happened to that guy. And because we
I just sent you a link.
that having two sites with nearly duplicate content was unwieldy, we took control of that domain as well, and is currently being redirected to AnimeLyrics.com. Right now, I'm going to skip the rest of this, but that was posted by Igor Bass, aka Kaito Ace, and I guess Princess Minako.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, Wheel of Morality. Don't have drama. Why does every freaking anime, like, fan site community, every anime website, even half the staff of anime cons, because being on the mailing list of a lot of anime con staff, there's a lot of drama. You'd be surprised, like, how much bullshit drama there is among the staff of almost every anime con ever.
Yeah, people...
Except probably the New York Anime Festival, because they're all paid professionals.
Yeah, if someone's not acting professionally, drama will happen. And most people, they're just... doing things as friends, and then they're not winners, so this kind of thing happens.
But why is it such, like, the anime, manga, video game, role-playing, all the geeky
That's just
fan
where we notice
communities.
it. The drama happens in all different communities.
Maybe it's just because these communities have a lot of content creation and a lot of, I guess, undisclosed or verbal contract agreements that aren't very enforceable, that a lot of people seem to fight over, like, well, I control the anime club now because I blah, blah, blah. I just don't get how there can be drama.
Stupid people. Drama happens. That's the rule of the universe. If no one was stupid, there'd be no drama. Because everyone would just do what needs to get done. Bam.
Now, if you follow this link, I'd like to point out that there are two posts after what he said. And I want you to look at the signature to content ratio.
Yeah.
Of these posts.
I could talk about that in general. What is up with people on forums with these gigantic signatures, like full of images and crazy animations and whatnot?
You know what?
What are you thinking when you're doing that? What do
you know what they're thinking? They're thinking the same thing I thought in, like, 1997 when I made Mephistopheles Realm, which was a ROM site on GeoCities, and I had like 12 animated GIFs of fire everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I think it's going to get to the point where there's going to be two internets. The internet where it's people typing text and saying things to each other, and the internet where every forum post is like a word, like maybe +1 or lols, and then an entire MySpace page as the signature.
So it's going to be our forum and 4chan.
Pretty much. Things of the day. So I guess because we didn't do a show last night, we just put up the old archive episode. We both have Vigigame things of the day.
Well, I actually had a whole bunch of things of the day, and I thought I had an anime one, but I guess it disappeared, so...
So I'll be real brief about this, because I don't know what much needs to be said. Pac-Man, the text adventure.
Now, we need to make Dig Dug and Pitfall the text adventures.
I've always been a fan of that sort of minimalist text adventure kind of art. Like, some of you might remember the famous classic Pick Up the Phone Booth and Die.
That's a great one. Everyone should go play Pick Up the Phone Booth and Die. It's the best text adventure there ever was.
I think I have to agree.
Yeah.
But the pack text is pretty accurate, I gotta say.
As long as you don't cheat, Ram.
I turned on debugging mode just to see what was going on, and you're the one who encouraged me to cheat and beat it and see what happens.
Just because I tell you to jump off a bridge, does that mean you should do it?
I've been bungee jumping. I'll do it again.
Without a bungee cord. Or a parachute.
Right, so what do you got for me?
All right, you know how Southeast Asia and I guess the rest of the world in general, they like their knockoffs. They get their knockoff iPods, their knockoff iPhones, their knockoff PS3s.
Well, we know how well that's been going in South Korea with the knockoff cell phone batteries.
Yeah, great. Well, of course, there are knockoff Wiis. Many of them.
Well, I knock my Wii off regularly.
Yeah. So there's one particular one in China called the VII, the V. And I got two links concerning the V. The first link concerning the V is a TV commercial. It's actually more of an infomercial. It's pretty long. telling you to call this number to get your V now. And it shows all these people playing the V. And it's actually a pretty impressive commercial. Like, it's professionally done. It's like a real deal infomercial going on here to tell you to buy the V. And, well, I don't know if anyone's actually going to buy it thinking it's the Wii. They probably know it's a knockoff. I can't imagine how I guess maybe if you're just totally clueless when it came to video games, you might buy it by accident. But, I guess it's a system that works, and they're showing you actual footage from the V and not the Wii. So, all right. That's just to give you an idea of what the V is all about. The second link is the real thing of the day. Engadget, the greatest website for tech news, currently, I guess, has a Chinese branch, Engadget China, and they got a V. And this video shows Engadget China opening up the V to see what's inside the V. And what's inside the V is hilarious, and Engadget China's reaction to what's inside the V is hilarious.
The noise they make when they actually get the cover off and see it is priceless.
And seeing what's in there, also priceless. So, yeah, it's one thing to see a commercial for a knockoff game system that's just blatant. It's another thing to see, to sort of pull back the covers and see what's really inside that knockoff game system.
Right. So we used to do this way, way back in the early days of Geeknights, where Scott and I would each review something, and it didn't always work so well. We always ended up either going really long or going really short on something.
And it was also sort of blah, because instead of a show where both of us were talking back and forth, it was one person talks a bunch, then the other person talks a bunch, and it wasn't really so exciting.
But I think we found the way around all this, in that one thing we tend to do, we seem to have a penchant for whenever we're at a comic store or at a con, if there's cheap manga or cheap comics, the cheaper they are, the more likely we are to buy them, and content is not a factor.
Something like that. I mean, if you're selling me the worst, you're selling me MD Geist, I'll buy it for $1.
Yeah.
It'll happen. Just because
I did buy it for $1.
Unless I've got it already. If I've got it already, I'm not going to buy it. But if even if it's the worst thing in the world, if you sell, I'll buy it. I guess I wouldn't buy like a hentai or something, but if there's any reason to have it at all and the price is low enough, I'll eventually, if it's 1 cent, if you got a manga for 1 cent, it's rare, the manga that I won't buy for 1 cent.
And we read these occasionally. Usually they just pile up and then we give them away at cons or something. But for whatever reason, I ended up reading the thing Scott's going to talk about, and it actually was good. We both avoided reading it because it looked kind of bad, but it was actually kind of good.
And then Rim bought a manga recently, and I sort of read it, and he read it totally.
I bought it based on one thing and one thing alone.
I cannot blame you for buying it based on that one thing.
It was kind of expensive. It was $8. That's more than I've paid for a comic in a long time.
Well, here, why don't we talk about it? We went to Hanley's Universe, which is a famous, semi-famous comic book store in New York City, right next to the Empire State Building.
Oh, yeah, to see the Perry Bible Ship guy.
Yeah, the Perry Bible Fellowship guy
Bible
was going to be there doing a book signing and whatever, but we sort of wanted to get on the train to do something because we were busy that day.
And he seemed to show up later. Yeah. Like, it wasn't going the way we expected.
We did have enough time, if he was on schedule to sort of go see him and do everything else we needed to do. But he was supposed to be there from 6 to 8, and it was 6:30, and he wasn't there, and there was a line, and it wasn't moving, and he wasn't there yet. So we were like, okay, screw this. But we, because of the situation, we did hang out in Hanley's Universe for some minutes. And I
found the Orotsuka Daoji manga.
They had a bin of old manga, and I was gonna buy a bunch of stuff in there. Like, they had every volume of Wounded Man that I did not own already, and I might have bought them, but they were $8 each, and I was like, what the hell? These are buy one get two free at most anime conventions, so screw that.
Yep, I mean, I seriously considered just offering him $100 for the whole bin.
Yep, but I don't think they would have gone for that.
I think they keep that bin there mostly just as kind of, a lot of old stores will have, like, old Nintendos and stuff laying around. They're kind of overpriced, but they're more for, I don't know, browsing and style and making the place, like, check it out, we got this old manga.
most of the things in that bin were, like, bent, like, not bent, like, oh, the cover's, has a crease in it, but, like, the whole book is warped and, like, leaning in one direction. Like,
also, it was mostly awful manga.
The vast majority of it was old, awful manga, but it was some of the first stuff that was published in the U.S. in English. Not the first, but some of the first.
Well, as Emily pointed out, you can always tell because on the back of, like, every other one, they're, like, from, like, from the same country that brought you Nausicaa.
Yeah, it's like they're always, because, there's very few manga and anime that people in this country actually knew about. They knew about like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and maybe Ninja Scroll. So everything on the back of it was like, yeah, we're just like Akira. Yeah, we're just like Ninja Scroll. Buy us. We're like that because, you couldn't, there was only so much Akira, Ghost in the Shell, and Ninja Scroll to sell. You were going to run out.
But I was flipping through and I saw something that looked a lot like Sanctuary, but obviously wasn't.
Maybe because it has the same exact artist?
Well, yes, and then I look, and it is something called Samurai Crusader, the Kumomaru Chronicles, and art by Ryoichi Ikigami. You may know him from...
Oh, you might know him.
You may know him.
Oh, I think you might know him.
But,
somebody gonna get hurt.
Somebody did get hurt.
Real bad.
Yeah, and it's written by Hiroi Oji.
Someone who I've never heard of.
He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, and I wasn't going to dig deeper and figure out who he was.
Let me check the A9 News Network.
All right, but while you're doing that...
How do you spell his last name?
The way I said.
O-I-J-I?
O-O-J-I.
Okay.
Oji.
All right.
Hiroi.
All right.
All right. But the story here is... I gotta really... I might just have to take you through it a little bit because it's hard to not start cracking up, but at the same time, I promise it's awesome. So it begins with a young man whose name is Kumomaru, and you don't know what the deal is, but he's sleeping on top of some sort of gigantic temple somewhere in Japan. And he's wearing these pants and these suspenders, and they're the most excellent pants I've ever seen.
They're pretty excellent.
And suddenly, a bunch of monks attack him, and he fights them off epically. And I mean very epically and kind of over the toply. But no, they're friends, and it turns out the monks raised him, and he's this awesome fighting guy. And then it kind of lets you realize that when this is actually set is Japan in the 1920s, 1930s. Like kind of Japan's ascent to the modern world, but before they ascended to the warlike World War II world. So, economic prosperity and industrialization and all that. And there's a lot of style and setting, and it's kind of interesting at that point. You think, all right, this is going to be some sort of historical political drama set in 1929 Japan. Well, then the robots come.
They look just like the Thousand Killers from Terminator 2. They got the same, treads for legs, triangular tank treads with the chain gun, minigun arms. It's the same exact freaking thing.
And then the Nazis. And then more Nazis. And then more robots. And then Cat Burglar, who is so badass.
So you got Nazis, you got robots, you got samurais, you got cat burglars.
When this cat burglar is attacked by a vicious German guard dog that's about to kill this cat burglar. I'm not revealing the gender of the cat burglar because it might be a spoiler. Despite the fact that the manga kind of, I keep saying epic, but it epically gets rid of the old cliche of you can't tell who I am when you're wearing a mask, because when the main character sees the cat burglar for the first time, he's like, take off that stupid mask. I know who you are.
So instead of the cliche, ha ha ha, I'm wearing glasses, you don't know I'm Superman, it's the cliche of, ha ha, the main character is so badass, he sees through everything.
I don't know if anyone actually didn't see through it. I just think people saw...
I saw right through it when I read it.
I think people saw through the disguise in the comic, too. But they didn't know who the cat burglar was, so it didn't help them.
Nah.
It's like, oh, I recognize you, but I don't know who you are. But, this cat burglar, she is so badass, spoiler, that when the guard dog is about to kill her, all she does is look the dog in the eye, and the dog basically says, whoa, never the fuck mind, and just kind of skulks away with its tail between its legs.
I saw that. That was quite the scene.
It's drawn by our man. So it's got... The characters are all identical to the characters from Sanctuary. The main character looks exactly like Hojo, just a younger Hojo.
Well, actually, that's something that Tezuka started, where if you read a bunch of Tezuka manga, you will notice that even though each different manga has different set of characters, there's no characters in Astro Boy that are also in Phoenix. But you'll notice, hey, That guy with a mustache in Astro Boy looks exactly like the guy with a mustache in Phoenix. It looks like the same guy, but they're different characters in the story. It's not like, that's the guy from Astro Boy. It just happens to look exactly the same. And that came from Tezuka. He modeled his manga and his stories after he would go to this, like, sort of a theater called the Takarazuka Review with Takara's Treasure. I don't know what Zuka is, but it's a treasure something review. And that was like in his near where he lived when he was a kid, and it was like he'd just go see people put on plays of all different kinds, and it was this one acting troupe that was there, and they would put on all different plays. So you see these different plays, but every play has the same actors. So Tezuka in his manga, he tells all these different stories with different characters, but it's sort of like they're the same actors. And I think Ryuichi Ikegami, either because he couldn't draw more different kinds of characters or because he was taking some influence from Tezuka. Also, every main character in every Ryuichi Ikegami work is the same guy. Crying Freeman is the same guy as Akira Hojo, is the same guy as the main character in this. It's the same exact guy, even though they're different characters and different stories that have nothing to do with each other.
But it's beyond that. I mean, the way characters look at each other, everything is identical. The only difference between this and Sanctuary is that Sanctuary didn't have the main character pull out a katana and cut the barrel off of a tank.
So Sanctuary was written better.
See, that is where I might not agree. Because the thing is, this sounds all crazy, and it's about to get crazier. You see, right away, they introduce a bunch of cameos. I mean, they're showing you, like, the streets of 1920s Japan, and there's people dressed up in traditional garb, but also people dressed as flappers, and it's very, period commentary. And then they introduced to you Mr. Ropa and Mr. Enoken, and I didn't know who they were, but apparently they were famous comedians in the 20s and 30s in Japan. Now,
perhaps they were manzai.
I was about to say, I haven't looked them up yet. I don't know if they're manzai or not.
I think they're like the Abbott and Costello of Japan. That's the feeling I get from reading the manga.
You definitely get that vibe. Now, they're not just cameos.
What were their names again? Ropa and something else?
Mr. Ropa and Mr. Enoken.
Okay.
But then, later on, we meet a bunch of famous people along the way. And I think the moment that makes this manga shine is first when we meet Pablo Picasso, who's drunk off his ass and just like, I'm the greatest artist ever, and you can all
That's absolutely historically accurate, 100%.
But also, when first,
I'm not even kidding,
the main character, he meets Ernest Hemingway, who is played, apparently, by Sean Connery.
That's also 100% historically accurate. Sean Connery is just, Ernest Hemingway pretending to, not be dead. Pretty
much, because good God, I say, yeah, it's just Ernest Hemingway is played by Sean Connery. And in light of what Scott said about, having this is Sean Connery playing Ernest Hemingway. Good God. But so far, they're all just, cameo. And then Ernest Hemingway is there, and he talks to him for a while, and you think the scene's over. Hemingway is going to go on his way. I'm not going to see him again. Well, after the Nazi tank comes, he tosses the ancient artifact of Japan to Ernest Hemingway, and there's this beautiful, hilarious panel of Ernest Hemingway just kind of like trying to walk away nonchalant while the Nazi robot tank is wreaking havoc behind him. Ernest Hemingway then becomes a main character. And I think the second moment that is wonderful is when Ernest Hemingway shows up in a military uniform, an American military uniform, outside of the prison that our main character boy has been locked up in Paris, with a hand grenade.
And he's going to go in and save him with the hand grenade?
And he does, in fact, save him with the hand grenade.
Does he think he is, Spike Spiegel?
And then the scene that follows is because the gist of this is like there are people who symbolize the spirit of a nation, and some nations have multiple spirits that are warring internally with each other. Japan has the true spirit of Japan, as exemplified by this main character, but it also has the rising military spirit of Japan, as exemplified by the second most evil fucker in the manga. Well, maybe the third most, because there's also the scary Nazi doctor.
Oh, great. Nazi doctor. Wonderful.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a doctor or what, but dude's scary, and he looks like
just because you call someone doctor doesn't mean they're a real doctor. I mean...
Not Dr. Mario.
Yeah, Dr. Mario, not doctor.
He kind of looks like a clown. But, and his eyes point in different directions.
So Dr. Whatever is just his clown name.
Apparently he's the man behind Hitler in this.
Uh-huh.
But, Japan has this evil militaristic guy, and then the main character guy, and it's kind of like the two, like the old spirit of Japan and the new, probably not as good spirit of Japan, and they're fighting out their ideological battle through these characters. And I think that is the intent. This manga is a romp through history with just over-the-top action and great characters and cameos left and right. This would make one fuck of a movie, and I think it would be great.
I didn't read the whole volume. We've only
you have to read the whole thing.
We only have one volume, and Rim said there's 2 volumes of it.
I would pay a lot to get the second volume of this, because this is awesome.
Well, I read part of the first volume, and from what I read, I mean, it was everything. Rim didn't really lie about any of it. That's exactly what it is, but the feeling I got while reading it was that it was sort of like the plot of one of those terrible old, poorly dubbed kung fu movies, only with some wacky historical kind of Nazi stuff thrown in.
I think if you read the rest of it, I mean, you could take it that way, but
that's sort of like the flow and the pacing I got was totally kung fu movie, like at the beginning where it's like a guy sitting on a roof, and then some people attack him and he fends them off, and then there's a guy saying, "Oh, ho, ho, you are so powerful." Yes, I am so powerful. Now, now we'll go out into the world and take my father's sword.
But you know what? That stops happening, and the tone and the dialogue and the action scenes are very different from that first part. Pretty much once he is in Paris and actually on his journey.
Yeah. Well, I will put it somewhere in my just now increased to read pile, and then we'll see.
While it is a romp, I think that's the only word I can use. And it's just him and Ernest Hemingway and Picasso and Otto von Bismarck going around fucking shit up and saving the world from Nazis.
It is by no means highbrow in any case.
But at the same time, the spirit of Japan, the spirit of Germany, the spirit of France, and every nation has a character that is kind of like a caricature of the spirit of that nation.
So like G Gundam.
But it's not stupid like G Gundam. G Gundam is unwatchable. I couldn't even enjoy it comedically when that stupid cactus whatever Gundam came out.
could enjoy the idea and a still image of those crazy Gundams.
Yes,
but that's all I could enjoy.
I was forced to watch more than 5 minutes of G Gundam.
Oh, God.
Because it was sent to us by the company, and we were supposed to show it at some con that myself and Scott Johnson were running events for on behalf of the RIT Anime Club a long time ago. And let me tell you, we could not keep a single human being in that showing room for more than 45 seconds. In order to not get screwed by the company, we sat there and filled out 400 surveys about the anime.
Awesome. Did you say it was terrible on all of them?
I did. He didn't.
Okay.
But
I talk about my manga now?
All right, you can talk about yours, but all I want to say is that
it doesn't matter if we like or dislike this manga, because it's going to be impossible for you to ever buy this thing.
I'm going to get it, and I'm probably going to have some sort of contest, and if someone is worthy, I'm going to give it to them.
Oh.
But Samurai Crusader...
But then we won't have it. We need to get another copy.
Samurai Crusader. This is going to be like Sanctuary or Eagle.
By the way, I couldn't find anything about Samurai Crusader on the Anime News Network at all.
This is going to be like Sanctuary or Eagle, where pretty much whenever I see copies of it that are in good condition, I'm going to buy them.
Good call.
But Samurai Crusader, put out by Viz Graphic Novel, The Kumomaru Chronicles, story by Hiroi Oji.
Maybe I should look for Kumomaru Chronicles.
Art by Ryoichi Ikigami.
Yeah, I couldn't find Roppa and Enoki, by the way.
I recommend this highly if you are at all like me, or if you like just over the top, but kind of well written and kind of poignant, but then Nazis. There's this. This is the last thing, I'm done. So, the art's by the Sanctuary guy. And I don't know who the writer was, but, there's very much, like, young men fighting to, like, come out and save the world and, like, we're going to take over the government and blah, blah, blah. Well, Goebbels and Goering are young, idealistic German young men who have joined the Nazi party, and they've just broken into government. And now it's our chance. We're going to rise up. We're going to make the world a better place. And they shake hands, and they're like, hopefully we'll go far together. And it's so like Sanctuary, except that we know how that ends.
Who knows? The second volume of this thing could be even crazier, with Nazis turning to be good, or who knows what.
I cannot recommend this highly enough.
I can recommend it less, but it's not bad.
You suck.
Anyway, I recommend this manga much more. See, we went to not the comic book store in the city, but a long time ago, months ago, we went to the local sort of general geek store, which has board games and miniatures and paintball and card games and video games and comic books.
It's no Millennium. I think there's only one Millennium, and that's in Rochester, the best gaming store in the world.
Yep. It's just a general local geek store, right? So we went there, and we're just looking around waiting for board games or whatever to happen because we're playing with people and whatnot. And, even if you go to geek store, you look at everything they got. And I think the manga was like, what, buy one, get one free, buy one, get two free, something like that? And I look in, and it's not like a manga store. I mean, there's a Barnes & Noble right there, so they're not really competing. They weren't buying any new manga at this place, but they had some manga sitting there on a shelf. And I saw Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service Volume 1. So I grabbed that, and then I realized I got some free. So I looked at what else was on the shelf and what I wanted, what I was going to take for free. And there wasn't much selection, let me tell you. I mean, the Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service Volume 1 was pretty much all I wanted.
So, of course, instead of going for something highbrow...
Yeah, I mean, instead of going for something like, I think that has a volume of Slayers, I wanted to go for something completely unknown. If it's free, might as well take something random and see what you get. And boy, did I luck out. Basically, I picked this manga called The Bug Boy.
Now, it's part 2.
It says on the side of it, Hino Horror number 2. Right, published by Kokoro Books. And because it was number 2, I felt like I wouldn't read it until I got number 1. So it was just sitting on the shelf in my room, unread.
Now, I'll let Scott talk about it, but the only reason Scott read it is because I randomly was in his room looking for another comic, and I saw it there, and I was like, oh yeah, that thing. So I opened up and I flipped through it, I'm like, oh, huh, that's kind of weird. I wonder what, all right, fine, I'll read it. It looks short. I read it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to read it because I thought it was Volume 2, and I was on the lookout for Volume 1, but, And Rim started reading it, and he found out it was actually a self-contained story beginning, middle, and end. Like, this Hino Horror series of manga.
Which I want to get the rest of now.
Yeah, this guy named Hideshi Hino. He's obviously a manga creator, and he created these horror manga, and he made each volume of the horror manga is a separate story, having nothing to do with the other story. There's a picture of him in the back of the book that shows him standing there with, the long samurai sword and then the short one, and he's kind of scary-looking dude here, yeah. Anyway.
Like Richard Garriott?
Something like that. But it doesn't matter because this manga is not like nothing I've ever read, let's say that. It's called The Bug Boy, right? I guess the Hino Horror number 1 was some different story, and Hino Horror number 3 is some other story, right? But Hino Horror number 2 is The Bug Boy. And The Bug Boy is about this kid in Japan. And he's a normal, like a little 8-year-old kid.
If normal means you're basically like a young Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, something like that. He's kind of ugly, like his eyes are all bugging out. And
oh, bugging, you say?
Yeah, something like that. And he's not the happiest kid. Well, he's not happy most of the time. I mean, his family sort of, it's like they love him like you love your son.
No, they don't.
They kind of do.
His family couldn't give it. Well, anyway.
Well, it's just they're sort of like, upset with him because, he doesn't get good grades, he doesn't go to school, and he's not the greatest kid, and he's sort of, the other two children they have are like, models of perfect Japanese children. He's not. So they're always yelling at him, and they wish he would do better, but he doesn't. He just keeps sucking, as far as what they want at their kid to do. He sucks in gym class. He sucks in, all the rest of school. He's not friends with everyone. I mean, he has some memories of playing with his siblings, but not much else. People beat him up, and his parents yell at him because he's not up to snuff. But after school, he likes to have fun, and to have fun, he knows where the secret trash dump is. And in the secret trash dump, he's got some animals there, and he goes and he hangs out with these animals, like the snakes, and some bunnies, and some other sort of cats, and
fun social commentary. All the animals treat him more like a human being than the human beings he interacted with did. But
gasp! He got in trouble once for bringing some animals home, but then he stopped doing that. And he goes he basically after school he goes to this little secret hideout where all these animals are, and he hangs out with the animals. And basically, I'm gonna stop when I get to the point of spoiling. All right. He gets this disease, right? Or because something happens. And it's not a spoiler. It's called the Bug Boy. I mean, there's no way you weren't seeing it coming, The disease turns him into a bug in quite the gruesome way. He turns into a bug. And I'm not going to go into detail, but he turns into a bug. And
he turns into a bug.
Yep.
A bug.
A bug.
Bug.
And he's the bug boy.
Not a bug rom.
Nope. A bug. And he lives the life of a bug. And the life of a bug sort of has its ups and downs. And that's I'm not going to spoil anything more because I think everyone should read this. If you can freaking find it, I don't know where that's going to happen. And the thing that I think is so great about this manga is that the story is very simple, but the story is also very poignant and has a strong message. At the same time, I mean, it's Hino horror. I mean, it is pretty horrific. I mean, horrific things happen quite often. There's a lot of gruesome stuff going on. You know, I mean, we're talking about like horrible, deforming diseases turning people into bugs and, all sorts of other nastiness.
So I don't know. This is a kind of comic that I never read a lot, and I feel like now I'm more interested. Just straight up, horror comics. I mean, I like horror movies.
Yeah.
I like horror novels.
But at the same time, it's also
Well, I guess I like terror novels more, but I digress.
It's also sort of endearing. It's like you got this bug boy, and he becomes a bug, and then, he's sort of happier than when he was a person, and he's doing all these things, and, some of the parts are like Yotsuba. Like, it's his bug. He's like, my favorite panel is just the bug. He turns into a bug, and he goes to the playground at night when no one will see this giant bug at the playground. And he swings on the swing, and he slides down the slide, and he rolls around in the sandbox, and he's super happy. And it's like, oh, the bug boy, he's so happy on the slide.
But then, knowing again that it is a horror manga, I wonder if this is going to end well.
There's another one where he goes, he's one day he goes to the ocean, and there's just some happy crabs there, and they're like, happy crabs! And then he goes over to the crabs, and the crabs run away. Like, oh no, scary bug, let's run away. But the crabs are so cute. But yeah, this manga is simultaneously horrific, poignant, and has a strong narrative, and also cute. And I totally love the bug boy. It's like, yay, the bug boy. But then it's like, oh, the bug boy.
Wow, I realized we did something that I guess we never vowed we'd never do, but I almost feel bad. We pulled a Gerald. We just reviewed two things that there's no way in hell you're gonna find.
No, you're never. If you find the bug boy, let me look on eBay for the bug boy. Because I don't know how you're gonna get it. I'll check eBay and Amazon.
If I ever get another copy of Samurai Crusader, especially
I will
if I get
buy
all
any
of it,
copy of the bug boy I ever see.
But I will run a contest. Whoever can prove that they're most worthy of it will get it.
I see the bug boy on eBay, but who knows what kind of if that's legitimate or not.
It might be some other bug boy. You don't want to go there.
No, it definitely says Hino Horror #2 bug boy.
Ah.
$5.
You should search eBay for some sort of Hino horror set.
I did. That's what I searched for. There were other ones there, but they weren't as set.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right. But at any rate, there may or may not be an episode tomorrow night. It depends on how tired we are. We have a weekend of not sleeping and then work on Monday.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to work before the con on Friday.
I'm going to work before the con Friday, but maybe only for like an hour.
You don't have to take the 5:30 a.m. express train into...
No, I don't. I'm going to be there. I'll probably be at work for like an hour or two.
Yeah, we'll be at the con, 11 noonish, but you can't get in until 2. So don't show up early expecting to hang out because I don't...
Oh, man, the Bug Boy is on Amazon. You can buy it new for $10.
I would recommend...
You can also buy the other ones there. Red Snake is volume 1 of Hino Horror. Lullabies from Hell, I don't know which volume that is. Living Corpses, volume 5. Obinobo and the Bugs from Hell is Hino Horror #3. Yeah, all right. Hino Horror #12, Mystique Mandala of Hell. There's 12 of them. Yeah, there's a lot of Hino Horrors. If they're anything like the Bug Boy, I want all of them. That's all I got to say.
All right, so if we don't do a show tomorrow, then we'll be back Monday, unless we die at the con or something. Or if we just are too tired after the con.
Yeah, I really want like a scan of the Bug Boy, but it's so hard with this book.
You know how badly I want to just scan in all of Samurai Crusader and just link to it? Good God. I'll leave it at that. To paraphrase Dave Riley, fast ride for the gentleman. Good night, Internet.
Fuck you, Internet.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Odeo. Just click the link that says Send Me an Odeo on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.